South Africa has seen women whose lives were stolen far too soon by men. Women who were more than victims. They were daughters, sisters, and friends. This is part 1 of our series on South Africa's fallen daughters. Our first fallen daughter takes us to Pretoria, where a vibrant life was cruelly stolen in a tragedy that shook the city and left the nation searching for answers. Her name was Ntokozo Xaba. Ntokozo Mayenzi. Xaba was a 20-year-old student at Tshwane University of Technology, TUT. She studied integrated communications, determined to build a future that would make her family proud. Those who knew her said she was the kind of person who could make friends in minutes. But like many young women in South Africa, she carried a silent burden, an ex-boyfriend whose temper shadowed the relationship long after it ended. Her ex-boyfriend's name is Ntokozo Xaba. He studied chemical engineering at the Tshwane University of Technology, the same institution Ntokozo attended. On campus, he was well known not only as a student, but also as a rugby player, having been associated with a junior Blue Bulls rugby team. To many who knew him casually, he came across as a normal, active, sport-driven young man. But to those closer to the couple, their relationship had been turbulent for a long time. On the evening of the 1st of February 2023, Ntokozo Xaba spent time socializing with friends. Among the people around her that night was her ex-boyfriend. Their relationship had ended, but like many breakups that leave loose threads, he still hovered around her life. That night, they were reportedly together in a small social gathering with friends inside the residence. Between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., he asked to speak to her alone. Her friends hesitated. They knew the history. They understood the danger. But Ntokozo assured them she would be fine. Perhaps she believed it. She thought there were enough people around, that this time would be different. Her friends left them together. The next morning, February 2nd, everything felt wrong. Ntokozo wasn't answering her phone. She wasn't replying to messages. She didn't come out of her room. When friends couldn't reach her, they alerted campus security and management, eventually opened her room. And inside, they made a horrific discovery. Ntokozo had been fatally attacked. With wounds to her neck, paramedics were called, but she had already passed away. The room that had been a safe place for her was now the scene of a violent end to her life. The news spread instantly across TUT's campus. Students were heartbroken and enraged. The atmosphere turned heavy, and soon entire hallways were filled with crying students, questions, and disbelief. As investigators pieced together what happened the night before, attention quickly turned to the last person seen with her. Her ex-boyfriend. Police took him in for questioning. His version of events didn't match the evidence, and prosecutors later said his story kept changing. 4 days later, on February 6, 2023, Ntokozo Xaba stood in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. He wore a gray hoodie and jeans, arms folded. Xaba faced charges of murder and defeating the ends of justice, with prosecutors alleging that the murder was premeditated, making it a Schedule 6 offense, the most serious classification under the law. The trial has still not concluded, and the court proceedings are still ongoing. The case drew heavy public attention and scrutiny, with activists and campus groups demanding justice and highlighting the wider issue of gender-based violence. Although he was charged with murder, defeating the ends of justice, and accused of premeditation, no official judgment or sentencing has been publicly announced. The case continues to be closely monitored by the prosecution, the university, student groups, and the public. but as of now, there is no record of him having received a final sentence or conviction. Ntokozo Xaba's death shook Tshwane University of Technology and the wider South African community, and her funeral and memorial reflected the grief, anger, and call for change. Her passing inspired a memorial service was held at the Soshanguve South Campus Student Center, where students, staff, and family gathered to honor her life. Many students wore black t-shirts with her face printed on them and held posters condemning gender-based violence, creating a powerful visual reminder of the loss and the cause it represented. The Vice-Chancellor of TUT, Professor Tinyiko Maluleki, delivered a moving speech, describing her death as a stark reminder that even in spaces meant to be safe, like student residences, women remain vulnerable. He vowed that her name would join the list of women tragically killed in gender-based violence cases, and called for societal change to prevent such tragedies in the future. The murder of Ntokozo Xaba brought the country face-to-face with the harsh reality of gender-based violence. Sadly, her story is not unique. Just over a year later, a talented scientist and advocate also met a violent end, reminding South Africa that violence against women spares no one, regardless of age or achievement. Our next fallen daughter was a brilliant scientist, driven by curiosity and a passion for discovery. But her journey was tragically cut short, leaving behind a legacy of promise and heartbreak. Her name was Dorcas Didi. Dorcas Didi Lekganyane was known in South Africa as one of the most promising young scientists of her generation. She specialized in environmental science and indigenous medicinal plants, work that earned her national awards, fellowships, and places on prestigious lists, like the Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South Africans. She also won the Office of Research Grand Prize for Best Scientific Work out of 500 international delegates, becoming the first Black female scientist and the youngest person ever to receive this award. By her early 30s, she had already built a career many people only dream of. But behind the success was a private life that, while not widely known, carried signs of strain. Didi lived in Bramley, Johannesburg, with her long-term partner, Cecil Kekana. Then came the night that changed everything. On the night of Dorcas Didi's murder, her husband Cecil Kekana attacked her in their Bramley apartment in Johannesburg. According to reports, Kekana repeatedly attacked her with a weapon. This violent act took place while their 3-year-old daughter was downstairs with their nanny. Prior to the murder, Kekana had a history of domestic violence against Didi. She had even opened an assault case against Kekana in 2022, which was later withdrawn due to family intervention. The motive behind the killing is believed to be Kekana's suspicion that Didi was cheating. Cecil Kekana was found unconscious in the same room as Didi's body. He had allegedly attempted suicide by overdosing on medication after murdering his wife. He was rushed to the hospital and placed under police guard. After being discharged on Monday, July 15th, he was arrested and charged with murder and defeating the ends of justice. According to family members, Didi was unhappy in her marriage. She was in the process of leaving Lekganyane when the murder occurred. They also suggested that Lekganyane was intimidated by Didi's success and accomplishments. Cecil Lekganyane made his first court appearance at the Alexandra Magistrates Court on July 16, 2024. He was formally charged with murder. Bail was not granted. The courtroom was filled with journalists, activists, and members of Didi's family, who sat together quietly, trying to make sense of the loss. The prosecution emphasized the severity of the case. A young woman murdered in her own home, with clear evidence linking her partner to the crime. But the case soon became tangled in delays. Like many South African courts, the system struggled with backlogs, administrative problems, and even load shedding. On more than one occasion, power outages forced hearings to be postponed. Files went missing. Dates were moved. As of the most recent reports, the case has experienced 6 postponements. Each delay was painful for the family, who said publicly that they felt the system was failing them. They had already endured the loss of their daughter. Now they had to endure long stretches of waiting for justice to move forward. As of the latest updates, the court process is still underway, and the perpetrator has not been sentenced yet. Like our previous victim story, we will update you of any coming detail. The fight for justice continues, and the memory of Dorcas Didi Lekganyane lives on through her work, her loved ones, and a country determined not to forget what happened to her. The loss of Dorcas was a profound blow, cutting short a life full of promise and purpose. Her story is a stark reminder of the dangers many young women face, a reality painfully reflected in the case whose murder would capture national attention and serious outrage. Our next fallen daughter was a university student, full of promise. Her story is well known and remembered, a bright future stolen through an unthinkable act. Her name was Uyinene Mrwetyana. Uyinene Mrwetyana was born in East London, South Africa. She was raised in a loving, supportive family and had dreams that stretched far beyond her years. August 2019, South Africa came to a standstill. The 19-year-old university student walked into a government building in broad daylight and was never seen alive again. What began as a simple errand turned into a national nightmare, one that exposed a horrifying truth about safety, power, and trust. Uyinene Mrwetyana, known as Nene to those who loved her, was a first-year film and media student at the University of Cape Town. She was known for her wit, her ambition, and her deep compassion. Friends described her as vibrant, funny, and deeply empathetic. She had dreams of becoming a journalist. She loved books, language, and people. But in one unthinkable moment, all of that was taken from her. Saturday, August 24, 2019. Nene needed to collect a parcel from the Clariange post office in Claremont, a suburb of Cape Town. When she arrived, the doors were locked. The man inside, an employee named Luyanda Botha, told her to come back later. She did, alone. Later that day, Uyinene returned. The post office was quiet. No other staff, no other customers. Just Botha. Luyanda Botha was a 42-year-old man working as a temporary employee at the Clariange post office in Cape Town, a quiet location near Uyinene's university. He appeared to be an ordinary staff member handling mail and assisting customers. But behind the uniform was a deeply disturbing history that had gone unchecked. Botha was employed through a third-party contractor, which allowed him to bypass the full background screening process that permanent government employees undergo. He locked the door behind her, and what happened next is unspeakable. In that government building, Luyanda Botha attacked and murdered her. She was sexually assaulted and fatally beaten. When she tried to resist after murdering Uyinene, he hid her body in the post office overnight. The next day, he borrowed a car and dumped her body in Khayelitsha, a township outside Cape Town City, attempting to burn the remains to destroy evidence. Meanwhile, her friends and family began to worry. Nene hadn't come home. Calls went unanswered. Her phone was off. What began as quiet concern turned into full-blown panic. Social media exploded with posts under the hashtag #BringNene Home. The police launched an investigation. University students organized searches. Everyone hoped she was alive. But 5 days later, police made a shocking discovery. Uyinene's body was found, and her killer was someone paid to serve the public. The country erupted. Uyinene's death wasn't just a murder, it was a mirror. It showed South African women the terrifying reality they already lived with. Nowhere was truly safe. Her name became a rallying cry. Women filled the streets, demanding justice, protection, and change. Her death inspired the rebirth of a movement. Even the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, addressed the nation about her case. The nation is mourning. The nation is angry. We have heard the cry, "Am I next?" The president called it a war being waged against the women of our country. When he was finally arrested, he confessed almost immediately. A shocking detail that shows he was neither remorseful nor afraid. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 life sentences plus 5 years. But for many, the sentence could never match the scale of what he stole. Uyinene's legacy didn't end in that courtroom. In her name, the Uyinene Foundation was formed, advocating for women's safety, supporting survivors, and raising awareness across schools and campuses. Uyinene was just 19. Her life was filled with promise, and her death filled a nation with grief and fury. She walked into the post office to pick up a package, but what she left behind was a movement. Her name was Uyinene Mrwetyana, and we will never forget her. The heartbreaking stories of Ntokozo Xaba, Dorcas Didi, and Uyinene Mrwetyana stand as devastating reminders of the urgent crisis of gender-based violence in South Africa. These were young women with bright futures, unshakable potential, and dreams that should have carried them far. Yet their lives were torn away in moments of unimaginable violence, leaving families shattered, communities grieving, and a nation once again forced to confront an unbearable truth. Drop a white heart in the comments for the women who should still be here today to honor the lives stolen, the futures taken, and the light we refuse to forget.